Gun, episode 7. What's on tap here? We've got to recap the Kansas game. This one hurts. We'll get into all that. We'll look back at some other predictions and projections that we made heading into this week as well, too. Wes Uhler, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmitt. It's In the Gun, your new favorite WVU podcast. Gentlemen, how we doing?
I'm glad you had to talk first, Wes. Owen, it's been tough.
30 seconds into this, and it's painful already.
Yeah, nobody got up this morning whistling, right? That wasn't the case. It's a couple things I wanted to point out first, because we're going to get into some other tough stuff. But the only bit of good news out of the weekend was hugs, right? That was the one moment of celebration West Virginia fans had. Shout out to Bob Huggins. But and then of course we lost Coach Signetti over the weekend, and we covered that on the Learfield pregame. But what he meant to the program leading up to Coach Nealon, and how instrumental he was, and putting the wheels in motion that led to Mountaineer Field. But we're taping this on 9/11. Of course, it won't air until September 12th. But every 9/11, I have my own little mini ritual, and we all do, I'm sure. But my best friend on the team when I played at West Virginia was Chris Gray, who was working for Cantor Fitzgerald on the 105th floor in Tower 1, and Chris didn't make it out. And so funniest dude I ever met, funniest dude I ever knew. He was the funniest guy. And I always say this about him. In every room that he ever walked into, and the best part about it was he didn't know it. He had no idea. But he would put on little Springsteen concerts, not only in the apartment with Chuck Fedorko and Glenn McNew up on the mile ground. We'd all hang out there, but even during camp, I want to imagine this: the whole team would get up on the grass field early for the first practice during two-a-days, because Chris would leave the locker room, say, "Guys, concert starts in 5. Get up there." The whole team's up there 20 minutes early for the first practice. Who does that?
That's
just
awesome.
To see Chris under the tent, and he would pipe it out. So part of my ritual every year is I fire up some Springsteen. You know what I mean? So little Hungry Heart, and on down the line. But texted his brother Timmy today, and just texted some other mutual friends, and kind of remembering him with funny stories and honoring him that way. But I can't let a 9/11 pass, or a lot of other days for that matter, without reflecting and smiling about what it meant to have Chris Gray in our life, and we were lucky to have that. But I definitely wanted to start things off, since we're taping on September 11th, to bring that to the fore.
Well said, Jed. We appreciate that. I'm glad that you wanted to start there, and it's a good place for us to go here. Gentlemen, we do have plenty to discuss today, certainly. I did want to mention as well, too, this episode brought to you by our friends at Toothman Ford in Grafton. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Owen, how you doing, partner?
Oh, man.
Well said.
I'm just we got to quit beating ourselves. You know what I mean? That's the conclusion I've come up with. We got to start eliminating those rookie errors, if that's what you want to call them. People are going to score points, man. You know what I mean? It's good football. Big 12 is good football. I think what we alluded to a little bit before the preview is, if you play around with these guys, they're going to bite you in the butt, and we kind of got whipped up front pretty bad, and they showed us what they can do.
Yeah, Wes, Owen and we've spoken 2 or 3 times today, kind of just, I think, trying to console each other on some strange level, because it's been a tough time. He's calling me, I'm calling him. We're just, talking it through. And you were kind of busy with the other gig, right, for that crazy game in Cincy. But
yeah, I woke up in Cincinnati this morning. It's been
it's been a long
then
it got crazy. Yeah, but here's what I kept going back to with Owen. I was like, look, the reality of it is, These two things absolutely coexist in this world. Okay. And I'm not going to suspend either reality for anybody. Kansas is far better and far more dangerous than the Kansas that everybody's pretending they are. That Kansas is gone. They're going to be a threat to some teams. They'll have peaks and valleys. They're a different team. That's one truth. And the second truth, equally as true, we should have beaten them. Okay. That's a game we needed to win. Kansas is better. Stop acting like they lose 52-3 every week. That's gone. There'll be times they do when they have letdowns. That's the part of the building process, but they're far more dangerous, far more efficient, far more fundamentally sound, all those things. They go to Houston this week. Maybe that's a test that'll trip them up. I don't know. Maybe not. But they're a better football team. This 5-game sample size starting late last year when they won at Texas, they beat that Texas team on the road that just gave Alabama fit. So when they play well, that's who they are. They'll have letdowns. They're better. That's true. Okay. I want people to stop pretending like it's not. But I'm a person who is accepting both truths. They're better. That's one truth. And the other truth, we needed to win that game. Both those things are true, not one of them. And we'll get into the specifics as to the why and the how. But I just wanted to kind of set the tone with both those things, because I'm not going to walk through a conversation where I kind of suspend reality and pretend only one of them is true. And we were some 48-point favorite that lost to, a team that doesn't present some threat. It's like that. No, that's not the case. We should have won, much like we should have won the Texas Tech game. That's kind of why I look at this as. But so both those things are true, and we needed to get into the why. But like Owen said, the most vexing thing to me, we talked during the previews. Okay, I've had several conversations this week walking people through the different types of threats that Kansas might present, offensively and otherwise, the different looks, how they test your eye discipline, how they get you out of place and pop big plays. That's what they're built to do. They got playmakers in the right spots. But the part that I didn't see coming was them pushing us around as the point of attack, our front seven. I mean, a front seven that looked pretty salty against Pitt's offensive line. Our front seven that had its way against Pitt's offensive line. I mean, Pat Narduzzi has to be looking at this Kansas game thinking, whoa, wait a minute. That's the same West Virginia front seven that kicked us around and wouldn't let us run the football. So he has to be wondering. Meanwhile, Kansas steps into Morgantown and does knock us around and exert its will. And that's not what Kansas was built to do. Again, they're smoke and mirrors, diversions, and they're very good at it. But what they hadn't done on as consistent a basis is just line up mano a mano and push your big boys to point of attack and win on first down so consistently to lead to very manageable second and third. They pushed us around. They whooped our butt at the point of attack. And that's something that I didn't see coming. I mean, for all the other threats that on some level you could see coming, Jalen Daniels, we talked about, how exceptional he can be, everything on down the line. You didn't see them pushing us around up front. And that's what happened for the better part of 60 minutes, plus some in overtime. But a couple exceptions, but that's what I didn't see coming.
Man, maybe that could be the episode right there. I mean, I think Jed just said it all. I don't think any of us saw that coming. I don't think we saw 0-2 coming, certainly. We do have plenty to talk about. We got to get to our first break here. When we come back, begin to peel back some of those layers. We'll look at some other things that happen around college football and the Big 12 Conference as well, too. Wes Uhler, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmitt, you are in the gun.
I'm talking with J.R. Toothman of Toothman Ford. J.R., everybody knows a lot of pro athletes buy from you. What's the secret?
Just like Will Greer, future Hall of Famer Frank Gore, James Washington, and many more pros, these guys have financial advisors that are always looking out for them to save time and money, and that's why they always shop at Toothman Ford.
And what if you're like us regular folks that don't have people giving us advice?
You don't need a financial advisor. Toothman Ford will save you time and money no matter who you are. Plus, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy from us. Visit ToothmanFord.com and get a quick, instant cash offer.
That sounds like a score to me.
That's right. And as always, we'll take anything in trade from chicken wings to Super Bowl rings.
Toothman Ford's got a lot of fans. Here's another one, Dallas Cowboys QB Will Greer.
This is Will Greer, former West Virginia and current NFL quarterback. And cars really do cost less in Grafton at Toothman Ford.
That's a fact, Will. Thanks. You can shop online anytime at ToothmanFord.com.
Back in the gun here with you, recapping a disappointing Saturday in Morgantown. It was a crazy Saturday around the conference and around the NCAA. Gentlemen, we do our different projections every single week. There were some here that were spot on. A lot going on. Like I said, crazy Saturday, some overtime games, some big upsets. Appalachian State going down to Texas A&M. We had our first coaching casualty here as well too, with Scott Frost being shown the door at Nebraska. That was a pretty eventful Saturday, I do say, for week 2.
Yeah, one West Virginia head coach at Appy State knocking off another one at Texas A&M. Right now, already, the rumor mill has started with Scott Frost. The situation there with Matt Campbell being attached to that. Who knows? I mean, it seems like every job, every offseason comes up, Matt Campbell's attached to it, but I already heard his name in terms of Lincoln. But there was a lot of action on Saturday. When there's a lot of action, there's going to be a lot of upsets, especially in the age of the portal.
How about a tip of the cap to Marshall as well too, going into South Bend and knocking off Notre Dame? Hey, Big O, I don't give Marshall props very often, but you go beat the Golden Domers. Hey, tip of the cap to you. Fair play to that one.
I shot Clint a text. The Trickets in college football were 3-0, right? I mean, Rick got a W at Jacksonville State. While our boy Travis won at South Florida, and of course Clint did what he did as the OC at Marshall. But I shot Travis and Clint some text. We were texting back and forth this morning, and obviously a big moment for them, big moment for Clint especially.
Oh man, what a win for that program! That turns things around. You know what I mean? That's a bragging right they can sell to recruits now.
Yeah.
So definitely, like old Wes said, a little tip of the hat.
There you go.
Just the tip, though. Just the tip.
The tip. Just the tip of the hat as we look at some of these projections here and how they turned out, Jed. Just a tip of the hat to the Tennessee Volunteers as well, too. Thank you, Tennessee. I appreciate that one. And, Jed, that was one of the projections here, actually. I'll tee you up for some of these. But that was, man, I tell you what, that one was about spot on. We projected 35-28 Tennessee, 34-27 Tennessee. Pretty close there. Just about as close as you can get.
It was exactly the type of game that Vegas thinks we think. We, as you touched on, we project some of these scores. They're not predictions. We're just feeding the information from a point spread and over-under standpoint and seeing what kind of score we think they'll come up with. We were a point off with that one. And then Kentucky at Florida. The projection was the Gators winning last week that we made. We had the Gators winning 28-24. Kentucky, big win in the Swamp, 26-16. And then we can jump into the Big 12 because a lot of the top 25 action actually took place in league play. Alabama at Texas. That was nearly the story of the day.
What a game.
What a game. The projection with Bama as a 20-point favorite, we had them as a projected winner 41-21. That wasn't the case. 20-19. Bama barely escapes Austin.
I had the great pleasure of watching that game with Major Harris, Brian Joswiak, Aaron Beasley, and Mike Collins.
There you go.
And we did a thing down in Myrtle Beach at the Sundown Sports Bar and Grill. And man, a lot of loose talk, a lot of good football stories. And yeah, that was a barn burner, man. I mean, that was as close as it gets, and I mean, good for Texas. You know what I mean? Going in the SEC here in a few, and kind of giving Alabama a run for their money there.
Well, I watched it in the press box. We were up there during pregame, and we had it on the TV shortly after we started the broadcast Saturday, and when Texas took the lead with the field goal with a minute and a half to go, Tony and I had this conversation on the air. I said, Bryce Young is on the Alabama sidelines, laughing like the Joker right now, thinking how hilarious it is that 105,000 Texas fans actually think they have a chance to win this game. There's 90 seconds left, and he's going to steal their soul before this is over. And obviously, it didn't take a seer to see that comment. It's Bryce Young. So anyway, we were way off, as we're most, with that projection. Missouri at Kansas State. Yes, K-State was favored, but not by that much. I mean, we had them projected as a 31-23 winner. They blew the doors off Missouri, 40-12, big win for the Wildcats. Houston at Texas Tech, another one we were pretty close with just based on the numbers. We projected a Texas Tech victory 34-31 last week. That was our projection. Red Raiders 34-31. What actually happened? The Red Raiders won over Houston 33-30. So not far off. Iowa State at Iowa. People who love offense hate this matchup. Okay. So the projection last week was an Iowa win 23-20. What actually happened? The Cyclones pulled home the win, snapped that losing streak against the Hawkeyes 10-7.
Finally got one.
Yeah, finally got one. So we were way off on that one as well. Kent State, Oklahoma. Obviously, the Sooners a big favorite. We project a 51-17 win. Maybe we're going to have to get used to what a Brent Venables blowout looks like as opposed to a Lincoln Riley blowout because it's going to be more defensive oriented. It wasn't 51-17 as we projected. It was 33-3. So Arizona State at Oklahoma State. Again, an impressive win for Oklahoma State. They were a heavy favorite. We projected them 33-21 last week. They actually won 34-17. So a bit off with that one. The Hokies. I'm already looking ahead, but the Cowboys playing good football. So Tarleton at TCU, no line on that one, but TCU did have a 59-17 resounding win. Good start for them. Baylor at BYU. The projection we had was Baylor 27-24. It actually turned out 26-20. So once again, we were a bit off on that one. And Wes, you want to set the table for our picks of the week?
Yeah, Jed, much like the Mountaineer football program, the three of us are also 0-2 as well. So we all got that in common. We're all in the same 0-2 boat together. Yeah. So we're gonna have to dig out of this mess together. Yes, of course we give you a couple predictions here that we all make about the conference every single week. Jed with the Big 12 signal caller of the week, which quarterback will throw for the most amount of yardage. He picked Donovan Smith, who had 351 yards, but not quite as many as 390, which Dugan at TCU had there. So close, Jed, but no cigar, as they might say. Owen gives us the Big 12 beer truck every single week, which running back is going to have the most yards. He said Eric Gray out of Oklahoma, 71 yards. Deuce Vaughn.
He had 71.
Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State, 145 big ones.
Hey, did you get to catch that game, Wes? Did you catch that game?
I did not, no.
Man, he's impressive.
He is.
I'm going to tune in a little bit more. He's a shifty Sproles type. That's what I kind of reminded me of.
That's what he is. And he slips. He's so short you can't find him behind those big O linemen, and you can't see, you know.
Yes. Very exciting to watch.
Deuce Vaughn, 145 big ones for K-State. And I also every week predict which Big 12 defense will give up the fewest amount of points. And I went with TCU. I took the low-hanging fruit as they played Tarleton, and it turns out that was forbidden fruit, gentlemen, as they gave up 17 points. And Oklahoma only gave up a field goal to Kent State.
So Owen,
the Sooners with the defense belt of the week.
We'll close this out, but I'll just say this. We're all 0-2 here, all right? But Wes is 0-2 against Albany and Tarleton State. I mean, come on, man. You know,
What's my buyout? Yeah. What's my buyout? All right. Get Scott Frost agent on the phone. Let's discuss my buyout. We'll get this figured out. You got to get me out of here. I'm just a liability. I tell you what, with those are program crushing losses right there. Wes Uhler, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmitt. We're gonna get to a break. When we come back here, we'll get into a full Kansas recap: the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. We'll do that when we return in the gun.
Game day got you on the go? We get it. GoMart is here to keep you going all season long with stores throughout our home state. We're a proud West Virginia-owned company, and our friendly staff is committed to serving our communities. From fuel to freshly brewed coffee and snacks, A stop at Go-Mart to cover your game day needs is always a touchdown. Plus, Go-Mart Rewards members earn points with each purchase to redeem for discounts on gas and free items. So stop by, start saving, and stay on the go with Go-Mart.
ITG Episode 7. Time to start our Kansas recap here. Jed, I'll start with you. Anything relevant that you think was said? You know, you're the real news hound here between the three of us. You're the one with your ear to the grindstone, your nose to the grindstone. Maybe your nose and your ear both. That's how dedicated you are. Anything relevant that you think was said post game by Neil? Otherwise, anything standing out to you here? You know, about 24 hours later as we record this.
He went straight to the media, obviously, and after leaving the locker room and briefly made some comments, then took some questions, but a lot of them were leading back to some of the larger points that you might expect, and that's the fact that the mistakes hurt us, the turnovers hurt us, and kind of the same with JT. You know, JT came out and said, "Look, you know, we got to stop the stupid things from happening," and so they were both kind of stating the obvious, but there's no magic words they're going to fix from anybody, coach or otherwise, coach, player. They're going to fix a game like that you needed, and so those are the types of games that, man, you obviously knew what you were looking at going in, and then outside of a couple exceptions, it is what you expected. But again, I go back to what I said earlier. The part that I didn't expect was them pushing us around, and that changed the dynamic of what they could do. But no, it's like I said, he briefly addressed the media at the outset of the conference at the presser, and then took some questions, but there was nothing really that revealing from a question standpoint, from an answer standpoint. And really, Lance Leipold on the other side, when you listen to what Kansas was saying, one of the things that struck me, and it's not the first time I've heard this out of the Kansas players, whether you're talking about, you know, Jalen Daniels or anyone else, but they keep going back to this same refrain in their post-game remarks, and that's, we just got to play Kansas football. And, you know, from the outside looking in, you'd think, wow, is that really something you'd want to say? But they've kind of taken ownership of what that means, right? I mean, that really tells me that internally what they've done is said, hey, we decide what playing Kansas football means, not these previous 12 or 15 teams that gave us this bad rap. We just got here. You guys just got here. We decide what it means to play Kansas football. Take pride in that. And like I said, there's multiple post-game pressers now, whether it's the win at Texas last year or something since then with, you know, the Tennessee Tech game, whatever it might be, that I see Jayhawk players saying, we got to play Kansas football. And I thought, well, that strikes me as interesting, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Just the disappointment, I guess, you know, from Neil. We just got to execute. And I think a key thing, here's a positive note from JT. He said, and this is coming from your leader, right? This is the guy who's taking the snaps, going to take you to the show if that's the case. But he's the guy who's going to fight to the end to get the win. He said, we're this close, right? This close from being where we're at now to being where we need to be. So, yeah, these small things, right? These stupid penalties, these rookie mistake type deals. And I feel for those players too. I was a walk-on coming in. The first play I ever had as a Mountaineer was a personal foul penalty, hitting a guy out of bounds in Syracuse. I mean, I get it. The emotions are high, right? The emotions are high. And thankfully for us, it was against the Orange and we won the game. So it wasn't scrutinized, right? But I still got my ass chewing from Rich, right? That set me in the right direction. But you got to play smart football. You cannot. And I know this is getting off the subject, but that's kind of what he's saying. We have to eliminate these little terrible nuances that are starting to almost become habit, it seems, at times.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Jed, we like to go to midfield with you as well too. Anything you saw in the field? Anything you want to share with that key sideline eye of yours?
Well, I'll say this: from being in the locker room pregame, first of all, I know we had a great week of practice, but then even the atmosphere in the locker room and the energy when Neil was speaking to the kids before we came out the tunnel, uh, this was not a hangover issue. Okay, that's not what this was. I mean, sometimes you let one game beat you twice, and there was fear that would the pit loss do that. Okay, that's not what played out here. We had high energy. Matter of fact, after Neil was done speaking, I was ready to play. I was ready to go play, and that's not often the case. I'm not that kind of guy, right? But he said some things that were really cool, and the kids were really jazzed up and fired up, and we came out there and got off to the fast start and jumped out to the early lead, and everything was going according to script. So I do think there was a lot of energy going into it, but part of that too. Let's give the fans credit. I mean, I was out there at the 50 for the coin toss, and there was a lot of energy in that building, a lot of energy. And look, it's overcast at the beginning of the game. It started raining later in the game, but Mountaineer fans be Mountaineer fans, and they did their part. They did their part, and they made it more difficult than it otherwise would have been on Kansas. And so there was tremendous atmosphere there. And then as it did start coming down in the second half, especially, I mean, it was kind of sporadic in the first half. There were some drizzles, but in the second half, it started impacting things in terms of the ball. Like at one point, Jalen Daniels was way off the mark with one of his throws, and I could kind of tell from his body language it looked like a ball issue. And so I was standing next to the ball girl, and so the official took a ball that skidded that he threw that was way off target and threw it immediately to her. So she started to put under the towel, and I said, "Hey, hang on a second, let me feel that ball." And I put my hand on it. Yeah, they were playing with a pretty wet football. That's why he was off the mark some. That's why you saw some sloppy play in other circumstances. Some I kind of wonder to some extent if that played into what happened with Reese Smith on the muff punt. But look, obviously they made fewer mistakes than we did in the same conditions, in the same rain, in the same all that. But that's kind of what I saw playing out. And again, I just can't say enough about the impressions made by JT Daniels on that sideline. During times of crisis in a football game, like Owen just said, you look to your leaders, and it's very apparent that guy is that. He embodies that in so many ways. And the fact that, everything on the line, we start at the 13, it's, rain's flying down in his face. And we march 87 yards to tie that game. Yeah. I mean, I walked over to him after that drive and I said, "You were born for this," and he just smiled, he just smiled. But the energy that he brings to that sideline is always impressive. So those are some of the things that stuck out to me. And once again, I want to get clear on this before, it gets too far out of hand. I'm not entirely certain what a targeting call is. I mean, it's become more subjective than a PI to me, like the hit on Jeremiah Aaron. Once again, you heard, plastic clacking all the way across the field with the helmets hitting. Okay. And what they've tried to do with that rule this offseason is take the forehead out of the equation from the defender's forehead, and make it more about, okay, is the defender weaponizing the crown of their helmet to make helmet to helmet contact. And I'll say this, even during replay, to me, the hit on Aaron's head did appear to be the crown of the Kansas defender. But at the end of the day, it was overturned. Doesn't matter. But I'm not clear on what that rule is. I'm not clear on it. So those are some of the things I noticed at field level.
I'm not a huge fan of it because there just is so much. There's just so many open doors. I mean, what's the discretion?
You need to allow a margin for error for the officials because they're human. And it's bang, bang. It's a high-speed game played at high velocity. And obviously, they're not always going to get it right. Even with the benefit of replay, they still miss it. So you've talked about it before. We've had many conversations about this for many people. You need some level of you need to tier it somehow. So
it's just like the face mask penalty.
Yes.
It's a 5 or a
Yeah.
15. I
You
mean,
have incidental or flagrant or and not all of them should involve ejections. Not all of them should, you could have different levels of penalties with it, and that would help the officials out too.
yeah.
If they want to be deferential to the booth and call it, even if it's close, I get that because you're trying to remove those types of hits from the game. That's the spirit behind the rule, and I'm all for that. So if you want to do that, be deferential and understand that, hey, I'm not tossing it to the booth with a risk of knocking a kid out of the game or throwing a kid out of the game that probably otherwise shouldn't be because he wasn't being malicious, right? So that's a consideration too.
I mean, that's within tenths of seconds. I mean, this isn't a play that took 30 seconds to develop or a hit to take 30 seconds to develop. This is like literally happening, a blink of an eye. So,
and that was without consequence because we scored on that drive anyway. Okay. It kind of just added to the story of JT's drive there. But again, whether it's us or somebody else, I mean, we're all about trying to enhance player safety.
yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not so sure this is doing that as much as it is impairing other things. So I think it needs addressed, but that's an off-season conversation.
Yep.
We're going to keep this conversation going when we return on the other side. We'll do some good, some bad, some ugly, everything in between. We'll also give our pivotal moments from Saturday night's loss to the Kansas Jayhawks as well, too. Wesley Uhler, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmitt. It's ITG, the Kansas recap episode here. More when we return.
I'm talking with J.R. Toothman of Toothman Ford. J.R., everybody knows a lot of pro athletes buy from you. What's the secret?
Just like Will Greer, future Hall of Famer Frank Gore, James Washington, and many more pros, these guys have financial advisors that are always looking out for them to save time and money, and that's why they always shop at Toothman Ford.
And what if you're like us regular folks that don't have people giving us advice?
You don't need a financial advisor. Toothman Ford will save you time and money no matter who you are. Plus, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy from us. Visit toothmanford.com and get a quick, instant cash offer.
That sounds like a score to me.
That's right. And as always, we'll take anything in trade from chicken wings to Super Bowl rings.
Toothman Ford's got a lot of fans. Here's another one, Dallas Cowboys QB Will Greer.
This is Will Greer, former West Virginia and current NFL quarterback. And cars really do cost less in Grafton at Toothman Ford.
That's a fact, Will. Thanks. You can shop online anytime at toothmanford.com.
Final segment here of episode 7, ITG. You got to make sure you're getting with us on social media. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, at In the Gun Podcast. We have polls. We have different things that we do. You can also, if you want to see our beautiful mugs, you can subscribe at In the Gun Podcast on YouTube as well, too, to get the video element of this. Not only all those things, fellas, but we also have a website as well now, too, Jed, itgfootball.com, I believe, correct?
Yes, sir. All the episodes are available at itgfootball.com. And as we keep talking about, stay tuned for merchandise. It is on the way. Our people are talking to your people about working on it for our people. So it's coming soon.
Good. Sounds good. Well, my people are going to get back to your people to get back to Owen's people here soon. So, yeah, it won't be much longer. Jed, let's get back into this. The projection that we had made for Saturday night was Mountaineers 35, Jayhawks 23. Final score 55-42. I think the one thing that maybe everybody was surprised by this, no matter, WVU fan, Kansas fan, neutral, who was high or low on the programs, I think everyone was expected how high scoring this one was. Was surprised
I agree with
by, or
that.
sorry, no one expected to be this high scoring.
Yeah, I know what
Surprised
you
by
meant. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think in large measure that was dictated by what we've already said a handful of times, and that was Kansas having their way up front and kind of dictating the terms of what played out at the point of attack. I mean, they consistently won on early downs, and we couldn't put them off schedule. And they had an open playbook all for the balance of the game. We couldn't put them into predictable situations. They kept us off balance. They had us on our heels as a result, and we couldn't be disruptive. We knew about the misdirection, the smoke and mirrors, the shifting, the unbalanced, the formation of the boundary. We knew about all those types of things that would test us coming in. We talked about all those types of things, but you didn't hear me talking about the possibility that Kansas was going to push us around. Okay. I didn't say that one time last week because nothing I have seen from our front seven and nothing I have seen from their O-line would have suggested that. So that's what took me by surprise, and I think that most directly contributed to so much scoring. And JT had the hot hand, and he was going to be tough to stop offensively. I think we're doing a lot of things well. We were clicking. I don't think Kansas had a lot of answers for it, but when you can't get them off the field, we blinked first, And this is one of those games, guys, that you kind of get up the morning after and you almost want to reassess and put football in its perspective. You really do, because it means so much to us and it hurts so much. And you look around and in part that's why I talked about Chris. I mean, there's other things in life, but this really matters to all of us, and it hurts. It hurts in a way that like you feel like part of you is lost when you lose a game like this that you feel so strongly that you shouldn't have. And but you got to forge ahead. And but anyway, let's walk this through. I mean, we're going to talk about some of the things we saw that we liked. Every game, hopefully you can pull some of that out, but there were a lot of things we didn't like, and a lot of things that need shored up, and a lot of things that need addressed. And the most obvious of which, I mean, I put together the format here and sent it to you guys, but there are some things that are itemized on here. But the obvious thing is going to be the mistakes, right? I mean, the self-inflicted wounds in the forms of some of these, in the form of some of these untimely penalties. I mean, whether it's a false start that moves you from a goal to go at the 1 situation to a goal to go at the 6 or at the 5 to the 10 or wherever it might be, you can't do that. Okay. When the field shrinks, let it. Okay. When the field shrinks, let it. Don't expand the field with a silly penalty. And then obviously, the one that we're all going to remember the most is most likely the roughing the passer by Taj Alston. I mean, that was a situation on a 3rd and 5, the beginning of the first overtime. He sprang clean off the edge. Jalen Daniels was moving to his left, kind of sliding through B gap, working his way out, got the ball out. It was kind of an ill-advised throw, probably one of the few mistakes Jalen Daniels made all night. And we gang tackled, knocked him for a loss at like the 28. So you were looking at a proposition. Kansas was going to face a 4th down in a downpour, probably a 45-ish yard field goal. There's a fair little minute. A team that's 0 for 1 on field goal attempts this year. So there's a pretty good chance they end their overtime with no points. So think of what that could have meant. But instead, the penalty gives them another, breath of life, and they make the most of it and get in the end zone. And we all know what happened. But Taj, I mean, just like Owen said, you feel for him, right? I mean, he's been trying all night, getting frustrated by the fact that this Kansas offense gets the ball out too fast. I can't get to him. I can't get to him. I can't get to him. I'm battling. 4 quarters now overtime. I'm battling. I can't get to him. Finally, he runs the hump, and he's like, he's in my sights. But, go back and watch the tape. It was a good call. I mean, it was a full step at least, and he should have pumped the brakes a little bit. The official is going to look at that a lot differently if you go in trying to pump the brakes, see if you can make contact, and if you go in still delivering a blow, and it's going to get called every time. So we can't let those mistakes. We'll go through the rest of the mistakes, but I want your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, you gotta be a football player there, right? You gotta glance off. You gotta do the best you can to make it happen. And we've spoke on this enough, Jed. We spoke earlier on the phone. The stupid, it's not good football. It's not sound football.
Mm-hmm.
Got to eliminate that stuff. Can't get your butt whipped up front. I mean, this is Division I football. Got to be able to tackle. Got to be able to wrap up. Easy things here. Turnovers. I'm gonna talk about the special teams deal. Can special team see? That's why special teams is so important. They're plays that nobody thinks matter, but when something does happen, something pivotal does happen, right now it's a big play, right? You think they're all going to be bang bang plays, and for me, when we muff the punt, bad weather situation, fourth and short, finally get a stop there. They end up recovering the ball and going down and scoring 3. Just momentum killers. And for a defense, I'm dog tired. I need the break. We barely got any wins as it was stopping them. And what was it? What did we just say? Four or
They were
two
11 for
fourth
15
and
on
shorts.
third down, and they
Yeah,
were
11
1 for 1 on fourth down. Yeah.
1 and 4th down. I mean, you can't. You got to make smarter decisions, and in that case right there, there's a kind of spotty weather. Just get away from it. Just get away. Uh, got to make smarter decisions. Like we said, that's kind of my whole mental process for the game right now. We just gotta do the little things right.
So you had poor tackling. You had the turnovers were costly. We've talked at length about the Kansas O line pushing us around.
And we did the same on offense. Like, that's the thing. Look, we had a great offensive game, right? Great offensive game, but it's two sides of the football, and there's that brother-in-law, right? There's Uncle Raymond, who's special teams, and he's got to come to the game too. So all phases of the game have to click. It's hard to win a football game, man. It's hard.
It's really hard.
You got to play well on all three phases of the game. You can't just, and yeah, we've had teams with Dana where, man, we could score 1,000 points, and we just, hey, last man to score wins. But we don't want to be that football team, right? We don't want you score 42 points in a game, you should win the ball game every time. Every time.
You should. And
I don't care who you are. You gotta win. So we got to be better. We spoke about the preview. We didn't think that was going to happen up front, but we got our tails whipped up front. You can't lose at the line of scrimmage. Everybody knows it's football 101. It's football 101. We got to do better. And now we're going to a week where we're playing a quote unquote tune-up game. What are we really going to learn from this game?
And we spent the off season from a personnel standpoint trying to plug some guys in that will give us some different looks up front. We got a big horse and a 317-pound defense.
We got so much lineup.
Yeah, we do.
We have more depth than we've ever had. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, you're trying to rotate guys. Yeah, it's so frustrating because we just haven't had the roster like we have, and I'm not saying you gotta play lights out. You just gotta do your job. Just do your job.
For example, when you see a receiver, whether it's an H-back or a tight end, Owen, you and I talked about this, busting clear up the rail when he's wide open. Do you think we called a defense that was designed to not cover that guy? No, that's an assignment that busts, right? That's an MA. I mean, that's somebody's assignment whose eyes got too busy looking at the wrong thing. Stay focused, okay? Stay focused. Make the appropriate reads, make the appropriate plays, in the coach's case, make the appropriate calls, right? And do a better job. But they consistently, when you watch the tape, especially on the interior, they won pad level, they won leverage. Their offensive line pushed us around with both those things. And then when they got in the red zone, we've talked in previous episodes. What we've done in recent years, we pride ourselves on the fact that when you get inside the 20, we bow up and we hold you to threes, not touchdowns. Well, that wasn't the case in this game either, and we could have used a couple of those. But Wes, if you want to jump into some of the positives, because there were a lot of negatives to dwell on here. But
yeah, I thought it's appropriate you end with mentioning the red zone defense there, because that's where you could have at least made up for hemorrhaging some of those yards. Was holding them to threes. I guess maybe the other part of that about letting Kansas, finish so many drives and elongate so many drives is that our offense did the same thing, right? If you want me to talk positives, they were good on third downs, had a lot of success there. They were good, period. Obviously, they were good in the red zone as well, too. You had some big plays, some splash plays early on to Sam James. It started and it continued to roll from there. Those are all positives for the offense, certainly. Bryce Ford Wheaton continues to look like one of the best wide receivers in college football. JT Daniels clearly has all the ability in the world. If you're looking for positives, there were a lot of questions about this offense coming into the season, right? What does it look like under Graham Harrell? Where do you go with JT Daniels? Can you get this offense moving in the right direction? I know, technically the offense scores 24 points if you give the punt block credit there to the special teams against Pitt in the backyard brawl. But if you go 24 points for the offense in the opener against Pitt, against that defensive front and in that environment, and then 42 at home the next week for your first 2 games in a new offensive era, that's a pretty good building point there, certainly. So if we're looking obviously to sprinkle in some positivity there, I think that's definitely where I'd hang my hat.
Yeah, 1 negative yardage play. Again, the penalties count, but they only knocked us backwards 1 time. So great job by the O-line not sealing up some of those leaks that we had against that very fierce Pitt front seven. This was a different type of contest against a different type of defense, but you talked about the wideouts. That early touchdown. We look for 2 things in Graham Harrell that we talked about in those early episodes. Is he going to bring greater third down success? Well, a couple games in, we've seen that. And is he going to bring in more explosiveness? Okay, we've seen that as well. Well, that explosive touchdown to Sam James was a great route. You saw the DB slip a little bit, Owen, but sometimes explosive routes force that to happen, right? You saw Bryce make things happen on that jailbreak screen and just outrun everybody. That's his athleticism being showcased. You saw KP. Boy, what a drive he had. He had some very crucial moments on that final 87-yard drive. He's really starting to come into his own, and we need that to happen. But great job of the O-line, more production from the backs. We need to limit the penalties. But let's get to the point where we're not turning the football over and not making these mistakes. And oh, by the way, how about we get to the point where we're forcing some turnovers? We're a turnover-starved football team a couple games in, and we need some of that as well. And that'll change the dynamic of some of these games. But yeah, the bad. I mean, we could go on the whole episode with what played out with them pushing us around. That to me, that's what most affected this football game. And again, we've seen personnel that Pat Narduzzi had. I've said it before. Had to be sitting there thinking, "Wow, that's the same front seven that kind of manhandled my battle-tested O-line that has more collective starts than any offensive line in Power 5 football. That front seven whipped me last week in the run game, and they got pushed around by Kansas. So is it a function of how good are we when we show up? Do we not show up? Or is it a function of how good are we? We don't know yet. We need to find an answer there, guys. But this was tough. This was tough. And we'll get into some closing remarks after we talk about our pivotal moments, but this was tough.
Yeah. And as Owen mentioned a minute ago, you're not going to really be able to find out much in these regards against Towson next week. So you're really now waiting for a few weeks to Blacksburg. You're going to have to stew in this one a little bit longer.
Only bad news can come in the Towson game.
Hey, you better come to play, because if they embarrass you, you're going to get your tail whipped.
Only bad news can come.
I'm telling you right now, it'll happen.
They're a 2-0 team that's kind of sitting there wondering, right? So, but it's difficult to find good news there. You want to tighten some things up and see what plays out with live reps, but you better bring it.
Towson, the thing I'm looking for is just no mental errors.
Yes.
Play a sound football game.
Because you can do that.
Obviously win, but just eliminate those little mistakes. That's what I want to see going into the next game. That to me is a building block. You talked about stacking plays, stacking games, whatever. That is something they need to stack. Eliminate the mental penalties. Like that has to be gone. We can't make errors like that in critical games. Like I said, big time players make big time plays in big time games. Sometimes
everything's a big time game.
So every game is a big time game.
It matters in practice. To Owen's point. If you're mistake free, it matters in practice. If you're mistake free, so certainly it matters in any between the lines game, irrespective of who you're playing. So that's an opportunity to improve as a player, as a unit, as a team. Let's play a cleaner version of football against ourselves, against Towson, against whoever steps up next.
Yeah, and honestly, if they can't get it, hey buddy, put on a 40-pound vest and run the stadium. All right, if you can't seem to understand it, here's your sign.
Law School Hill's right there.
Yeah, at some point, what's the point? A tough coaching has to come in somewhere. That's what it is.
We'll have a full Towson preview for you later on in the week as we start to wrap this thing up, the Kansas recap episode. Gentlemen, pivotal moments. Owen, for you.
Yeah, sorry, I
Do
already
we
kind
do
of.
we all have the same answer here? I think.
I got a different one. Are you with Owen?
I think Owen and I are both on the muff punt. I'll let you go first on this one, Big O.
Yeah, I just what what was our thing about this game we've been talking about the whole time? Smart plays, smart decisions. Know what's going on in the game. What is the situation? What's the atmosphere out right now? What's going on? Is it moist? Is there precipitation in the air? Is it wet? Is it raining? Uh, if you think you can make the play, obviously I love the confidence about coming up. He got brushed, right? I mean, I give it to those guys. They are nuts. I mean, that is a crazy job to do, catching punts. Vaughn Rivers used to do it for us. He was an absolute wild man. He would run up on those balls and plays like that. He would make plays. Bad deal here for him. Literally, situationally in a bad situation, you're thinking, man, at least we're right next to the sideline. If anything does happen, and unfortunately we muff it. It's literally within 2 yards of the sideline. They end up recovering it. Maybe they could have looked at the replay and seen if it was absolutely what the call was. They didn't. I think it was a huge mo killer for the defense for sure. Obviously, offense was clicking, but those guys are dog tired. They've been getting their butts whipped all day. Finally, make a big stop, and we give it right back. To me, that was as a player, as a fan watching the game, that was it for me. Wes.
Yeah. I did want to make sure to remind everybody, too, our pivotal moments are brought to you by our friends at High Street Prints. Visit them at highstreetprints.com. Oh, and everything you just said, I'm with you. I thought about picking the Taj penalty as my pivotal moment. I thought about picking the missed opportunity on the forced fumble there right at the goal line after the Reese Smith muff to get it back. And have just a real galvanizing moment there for the defense on kind of back-to-back stops. But to me, yeah, despite how everything had gone to that point, it's a tie game. It's 28-28. I never thought that the Mountaineers – I never had that, oh, crap,
Yeah.
we really might lose this game feeling until that muff. I still, even at 28-28, I was like, yeah, this is a little tight, but we're going to be all right. We'll find a way to win this by 7, win this by 10. We'll be fine. It's a tie game. You can't stop them, and you finally stop them. I mean – to me, it's pretty simple. And I don't think any of us we're not ganging up on Reese Smith or anything in that regard. But it's Kansas only punted twice the entire game, and one of them you gave right back to them, inside your own red zone at a pivotal moment. So yeah, there were a lot of pivotal moments in this one. There were a lot of moments like that a lot of the Mountaineers wish that they could have back, certainly. But to me, that one gets my nod this week, unfortunately, as well.
That 28-28 game, midway through the third quarter, when it happened, but that was crucial. But in a game that did have a handful of them, the one that I reflect on most is, I looked at a big picture. Kansas is coming in, okay, and they're so desperately wanting to believe. We talked about how they've shifted their culture, how they're looking for something to feed these kids in the way of belief, right? They knocked off Texas down the stretch last year. They played well at TCU. They played well against us. They did against an FCS team what you're supposed to do that they haven't done in years, okay? So they're feeding them spoonful at a time. Hey, believe, 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 believe. So you want to knock that spoon out of their hand, right? That's our job. In the first half of a football game like that, knock that spoon out of their hand. Don't let the spoon have more in it. And you had a situation where we were up 28-14 in the final and closing seconds of the first half. We talked about the red zone defense. And since Jordan Leslie took over this defense, that's been one of its signatures. As you swell up in the red zone, when the field shrinks, you get tough, you bow up. You hold them to field goals. The numbers they posted last year, the best in the Big 12 in 7 years from a touchdown elimination standpoint. So Kansas down 28-14, final seconds of the half. is facing a crucial and critical 3rd down and 5 from the 17. Okay. What they did, again, to the credit of their staff, they ran a play that they had not showed on tape. Trust me, I've watched them all the live long day. They hadn't shown this. They went empty, back next to the quarterback in the gun, Owen. They free release step back, Devin Neal through B gap. Okay. Shot him up the seam. And guess what? It was right into a blitz. And you know what a free release means when we're sending the bandit and the Mike backer. Okay. That means that Jalen Daniels in position to read him hot. And there's nobody behind that blitz. Okay. So it's a look we hadn't seen. So Jalen Daniels, being the crisp decision maker that he's become, reads the blitz, reads the hot, hits the seam that we hadn't seen out of the free release running back. Boom. Waltzes 17 yards in for a touchdown instead of us getting what would have been an incredibly critical stop to kind of throw a little water on that fire and make it a 28-7 2-possession game going into the half. And they wouldn't have been energized with all this momentum. And I think maybe they approach things trailing from a 2-position standpoint, getting the ball in the second half a little differently than, hey, guys, it's a 1-possession game. Take care of business, and they're puckering, okay? They got a little bit of catch-up to play, especially with the hot hand JT Daniels had. It's almost like now the onus shifts back to Kansas to start the second half, even with them getting the ball, and it might impact their play selection. We talked all night what we needed to do and couldn't. Put them in more desperate situations offensively. We couldn't get them out of their comfort zone. We couldn't get them in a trail position. We couldn't get them off script. Maybe if it's 28-17 at halftime, and maybe if they take the ball in the second half and still drive down and score, make it 28-24. JT does JT things. Now it's 35-24 midway through the third, and they're starting to feel it. Hey, this 15-play drive stuff's not working so well. We better press a little. That press them into a mistake. Who knows? I thought that was a critical 3rd down and 5 situation in the red zone in the final seconds of the first half. I think it could have changed what type of football game we saw the rest of the night.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, Jed. Momentum is everything in college football. And when you're coming into a hostile place like West Virginia to play night game, fans have been drinking all day. They're getting nuts. They're saying all sorts of things. It's loud. It's noisy. It's rowdy. As much as you can do to calm them down, the better it is for you. And, it's going to be interesting to watch this team throughout their year, Kansas, because confidence, and we spoke on this earlier as well. I gave you that quick Greenbrier West story. Mm-hmm. Watching these kids build confidence has been amazing because now you're seeing these personalities happen. Giving this momentum to Kansas coming into the half, I mean, it's everything for a football team. And if you've ever been in a locker room before, or if you've ever been on any kind of sports team, I say football, obviously, because that's what I grew up in. It is a real thing. It's not some fake fairy dust that is sprinkled on situations. Momentum's a huge thing in football games, and big plays like that from mistakes, just give other teams massive.
You said it best when we were talking earlier, Owen. You talked about the old NBA game. You guys remember the old NBA game where you hit 3 shots in a row? Fire! And the next thing you know, it ratchets up and you can't miss. Okay, it puts you in a different player mode. Well, I almost got the sense that Jalen Daniels was on the verge of it. And that 3rd and 5, he's on fire. That 3rd and 5 put him in that mode. Yeah. Now he goes into the locker room. Hey, guys, we got this. We got, it had a lot of impact. Momentum is a real thing. If you get kids believing, okay. Now, I know our fans are savvy enough to recognize they'll watch this and listen, and they're not going to walk away saying, hey, they're saying Kansas is going to do this. And that's not what we're saying. Okay. What we're saying is Bobby Bowden always said there's 4 stages to building a program. You lose huge, you lose close, you win big. Well, Kansas is no longer in the every week in, every week out, lose big. They'll lose big some this year. Trust me. And I don't want people come back and saying, hey, Jed, you said they're turning it around and they just got beat 52-10. They'll have some of those games. That's part of the building process. But you know what? They won't have those games every week like they used to. So they're making progress, and momentum with a team like that, belief like a team like that, all these things matter. And it was incumbent upon us to not let them achieve that. We didn't do it. We didn't do our job. Our job is to prevent the plays that give them that momentum. Our job is to prevent the plays that don't give them that belief, or that do give them that belief. Don't let them have it. Swat it out of their hand. And we had plenty of opportunities to do that in all three phases. And at the end of the night, we didn't make that happen. The mistakes were too much to overcome. They're self-inflicted. They'll get you almost every time. There's Kansas teams in the past, those mistakes wouldn't get you. You'd make mistakes and you'd still win 45-17. The same mistakes we made the other night, some of those old Kansas teams you would have still blown the doors off of. This isn't that. It's a Kansas team we still should beat, but you got to play better against them. Texas found that out last year. Other teams will find that out this year. We didn't do that. We didn't win a game we needed to win. And you better fix some things, address some things. And I know that's going to be the intent of the staff, the team. They're going to circle the wagons and work on doing those very things, because they recognize, look, this was another lost opportunity. This is our team. You know, what kind of legacy is this team going to leave? That's up to us in this locker room. You know, there's a lot of disappointed people across the state of West Virginia and beyond. There's a lot of disappointed people in that building, but only the people in that building can affect what change plays out, you know? And, you know, I'll say this, 2 games in, and a handful of press conferences in. So we have 2 games on tape in blue and gold, more than that on tape, but in old gold and blue, we have 2 games, and then a bunch of press conferences, and then team meetings. And JT Daniels is elite. Okay. As advertised. He's an NFL quarterback who happens to play in college right now. Okay. That is a guy that can take you into any venue in the Big 12 circuit against any team on the Big 12 schedule and lead you to a win. Absolutely, and without question. Now, without that guy, we have, or nearly have, at some point in the recent past, gone into every venue against every team and either won or nearly won. Well, now we have that guy. So what's going to play out around JT Daniels, knowing what we have and the special opportunity with a trigger man like that? What's going to happen around him? How's the defense going to respond to what played out at the point of attack? Okay. How's the offense going to respond to some of these untimely penalties? How's everybody going to respond at large, recognizing, you know what? People get tired of hearing we're a couple of plays away from being 2-0. So why don't we just stop talking about it? Why don't we go out and make those plays? Because we got a guy at the right there pulling the trigger that not many people have. And we're blessed to have him. Let's make the most of this opportunity while we have him and turn this thing around. Get some things right. We didn't lose both these games 55-10. We're a couple plays away. And part of the reason we're a couple plays away is because JT Daniels helped put us a couple plays away. Build around him, shore those things up, fix the issues. We are capable with that guy behind center of unbelievable things if you stop with the mistakes. If you don't, I just wasted 2.5 minutes of your life probably. But if we do, wow, what's not possible? That guy, Owen, you know it. You played with that kind of guy.
Yeah.
You had number 5. You've told me how many times. With number 5 around, you guys felt, hey, if we just play solid football, anything's possible because we got number 5. Number 18's that kind of guy. He's that kind of it factor guy. And the kids in that locker room, there's no doubt in my mind that's recognized. Owen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Man, that kind of confidence in a quarterback who's your leader, who acts like a leader, who knows the game, who studies the game, who goes out and performs in the game. I think this conversation might have to be had by maybe him and a senior defensive guy, letting these guys know, look, we're going to win some football games this year. You need to believe that. You need to believe in what we're doing. You need to believe in us. But like we've said all podcast, you got to eliminate the stupid mistakes. Got to do it. I'll take you to the promised land, but I need it cleaned up, and I need it cleaned up ASAP. Like I said, Townsend game, hopefully, for me, a win is going to be the small mental errors corrected. And if we can do that, that's what I want to see. We should blow the doors off of them, obviously. But like I said, the small mental errors need to be cleaned up. And if that happens, we got better. If it doesn't, we can't wait to Virginia Tech. I'm telling you, that's a hostile environment. Jed, you've been there. Wes, I don't know if you have. It's a rocking atmosphere. The fans are right on top of you. It's going to be loud. It's sold out. We will get our tails whipped.
Mm-hmm.
We will get our tails whipped.
No doubt about it.
And then it's a snowball.
You got a couple of choices, right, Owen? You
Yeah.
can crawl into a shell, and you can say, "Hey, we're going to waste JT Daniels and go 2-10 with him, or 3-9 with him, whatever number you want to arbitrarily pick." Right? You can say that, okay? Or you can look at it and say, "Look, here's what's possible with a guy like that."
Yeah.
Under ordinary circumstances, I'm not sure what will play out in a locker room with the adversity we've already faced as a football team, especially in this day and age with the escape hatch of the portal and so many easy ways out for young kids. Okay. A guy like that might just make things different. That dynamic, that presence. Okay. Like, Wes, you worked with the Steelers. Okay. This is long before your time, but people often point to Chuck Noll's best coaching job with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a guy who won 4 Super Bowls. They don't point to the 4 Super Bowls. You know what they point to? The 1989 season.
Yep.
When they lost 51-0 to Cleveland in the opener, got beat 41-10 at Cincinnati in the second game. He rallied the team. They entered the playoffs as a wild card, pulled an upset in Houston, and almost beat John Elway in Denver in the divisional playoffs after getting beat 92-10 in the first 2 games. So you're left with a couple choices when you stand at 0-2. Which way are we going to go? A lot of locker rooms will succumb to a start like that. Matter of fact, history is a graveyard of those locker rooms, right? Are we going to enter that graveyard, or are we going to write a different story? And you know what? Look at that guy holding a pen in his hand over there wearing number 18. I'll tell you what, a lot of those teams in that graveyard didn't have number 18.
Yeah.
Does that make us different? Does that make us a team still with opportunities? Because I tell you what, there's a lot of frustrated folks out there, and they're going to call us delusional because we think we got number 18. We got a shot at doing some unique things and maybe winning some games people don't expect us to win. But can we do it? Here's what I suggest people do. Anything's possible with JT Daniels. And I say this. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know how many are going to win. I don't know how many are going to lose. I don't know how close these games are going to be. I don't know anything. I just know that I'm a believer in that kid. Okay. And I know we got some talent on both sides of the football. It hasn't gelled. It hasn't come together. But with a guy like that, that could happen. If you haven't listened already, if you're listening to this podcast, please go to YouTube. Look up JT Daniels' post-game remarks following the Kansas loss. More specifically, skip ahead to when he was asked about what happened on the 2-point conversion. Okay? That isn't 400 level football. That is graduate level football. Okay? That is a master's. He walked you through his thought process in the 2-point play to tie the game.
Yeah.
That is a master's class in championship level quarterbacking. And that's who's pulling the trigger for us right now. And that's why if you fix what's ailing you, there's no guarantee you can or can't. But if you do, that guy makes some pretty cool things possible for you, irrespective of what happened at Pitt, irrespective of the fact that you lost a game you should have won against Kansas. With that guy, you have enough talent on both sides to fortify this. There's no promise that's going to happen. Okay? There's no promise. But that's my take on this, the 18 factor. So we'll see.
Yeah. I like it, Jed. And like I said, hey, keep being you, brother, because you're the real deal.
He is. Yep.
Well, only one way forward. Start to clean it up Saturday against Towson, and then reassess from there. We will have a Towson preview for you later on in the week, but that'll do it for this episode number 7. Great stuff as always, gentlemen. Hopefully this was cathartic for everybody listening, and this will be the classic "It's always darkest before the dawn" moment that we'll look back on and hopefully change things for the better heading down the stretch here in these final 10 games of the season. For Jed Drenning, for Owen Schmitt, I'm Wes Uhler. Thanks as always for listening to this episode of ITG. Be an ear, tell an ear about your new favorite WVU podcast, and we'll talk to you guys later on in the week to get you ready for Towson. Take care, everybody.